And we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United And next, the clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Look.
Here.
Commissioner Brastad. Here. Commissioner Kordiak.
Here.
Commissioner West. Here. Commissioner Gamache.
Here.
Commissioner Schulte.
Here. Terrific. Next, we will look for tax claims and abatements.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And we'll do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Brastad. Aye. Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
And that passes. We'll move on to a review of checks issued from Finance and Central Services and from Human Services. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that passes. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes from two meetings, January 2nd, 2018, for both the statutory organizational county board meeting and the regular county board meeting.
So moved.
I have a motion for both sets of minutes.
Second.
And a second. Is there further corrections, additions, deletions? Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? And the minutes are adopted. Next, we'll move into Chair's Remarks. This morning, we have two items under Chair's Remarks. First, it's always a pleasure to acknowledge our county staff who have been recognized by their peers for outstanding accomplishments. I'd like Commissioner Kordiak, as Chair of the Parks and Community Services Committee, to begin our recognition.
Thank you, Commissioner Schulte. Today we're here to highlight an award that was recently presented to Andy Soltvedt. I recognize him for my active involvement as he is in our park system. Andy has received recently the prestigious Jack Niles Award from the Minnesota Recreation and Parks Association, commonly known as MRPA in the world of parks. Jack Niles Award is given annually to a professional member of the NRPA who has served at least 10 years of professional service in the organization. He demonstrated significant accomplishments within the park system with which they originate, and he's showing a background that shows active participation in MRPA. Here to share with me in this event is John Vondelinde, who may make some further comment about Andy and his accomplishments. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Kordiak. Good morning. For the record, John Vondelinde, Division Manager for Parks and Community Services. I thought it might be most appropriate this morning for me to simply read the remarks that were made at the MRPA Awards banquet by Jason West from our Board of Directors of MRPA, who introduced Andy. And so I thought I'd just paraphrase what he said, because I think it really captures the essence of Andy's background and why he received this award. So here we go. Congratulations, Andy Soltvedt, for receiving the 2017 Jack Niles Award. Andy is a quiet leader who makes a huge impact on all of us. He has a great sense of humor, and it's been a joy to watch him grow in the profession. And now he's receiving the Jack Niles Award. I can't wait to see where he goes from here. Andy has made remarkable contributions to our profession through his involvement in our state association. He has served on the MRPA Board of Directors for 2 terms. He's co-chaired extremely successful professional trainings, such as the Emerging Recreation Leaders Institute, the Facility Management Academy, and our annual conferences, including the 2014 conference that was held at the National Sports Center in Blaine. And he has also received several MRPA awards, including the 2008 Horizon Award. In addition to these accomplishments, Andy holds a bachelor's degree in Public Parks and Recreation Management from the University of Minnesota and a master's degree in Public Administration from Hamline University. Jason went on to say that I also want to say that Andy doesn't just do recreation in his business life. He likes to enjoy the outdoors in his personal life as well. He and his wife Jess, and his twin boys love to hike, camp, and travel to places such as Alaska and Colorado, where they can be submerged into the outdoors and recreation. Andy is also a Parks and Recreation Commissioner for the City of Elk River. Basically, I'm saying that Andy influences all of us. I'm so proud to introduce to you the 2017 Jack Niles Award recipient, Andy Soltvedt, and I am pleased to introduce to you Andy Soltvedt. So Andy, if you can come up, please.
Commissioners, thank you for having me today, and really appreciate the opportunity to be recognized here in front of the board. It was a fun day to be introduced at the MRPA annual general meeting and receive the recognition with other professionals throughout the state. And really a great honor to serve on MRPA as well, and I appreciate John's leadership in encouraging us to do so. The strength of the Minnesota Recreation Park Association is the members that are involved with it, and as I'm sure all of you know, in the associations you're involved with too. So it's really an honor for me as the last 5 years being able to represent Anoka County at that association, and people are always amazed at the different projects, the different things that we're doing here in Anoka County, and being able to be that liaison to the state and to the other associations and other counties and cities within the parks and recreation industry has been a real honor, and it's nice to be recognized for something you love to do. So I really do appreciate that, and thank you for recognizing me here today.
Well, thank you, Andy, and congratulations. I have to say that Anoka County is blessed to have so many great departments, but we forget often that our departments are made up of people who do great things. And I had the pleasure of serving on the Parks Committee for a number of years, and it was a great loss when I was removed from that committee. I do need to tell you, though, that you are a big part of that, and I really appreciate your work here in Anoka County, and shining a spotlight on what Parks does within Anoka County is by no means a small part of what you do. We really do appreciate it. Congratulations.
You know, can I comment?
Commissioner Cordia.
If I can, and just maybe a bit more casually, I'm very pleased that Andy is in our parks work area. He's a fine young man. He's very committed to everything he does. He's excited about each of his projects. He runs so many different kind of things for our visitors in our park system. He's actively involved in many of those activities, as well as not only organizing them. He comes to us just tickled with the thing that he's working on lately, but it's the golf course, the wave pool, or park system activities. He just does a very fine job of it. So we really appreciate the outreach that he does within each of our communities and each of our parks. But he is a great young guy to work on that, and I congratulate you and thank you for that personally.
Thank you,
Cool.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
And I just, one more comment, Andy, I got to tell you, there's been something that's bothered me for years, and that was the sound system at the Bunker Hills Event Center,
I heard
the
that.
Activity Center.
Yeah.
And for years, it just, nobody could get it right. And we had an event out there a week or so ago, and it was fabulous. Sound system was perfect, I understand it. You've been working on it and tailoring it, and I appreciate your efforts there. It's just a small token of what you do every day, but it made a huge difference in how that event happened.
Good, I
And
appreciate
so
that.
thank you for that, and continue the great work. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Second on Chair's remarks today includes an annual report from the Web Oversight Committee and Anoka County's website coordinator, Paul Burtness. Our website is a crucial business tool that is generally the first point of contact for our citizens. Our website has grown and evolved dramatically over the years as the way in which people access information has changed. We've been very fortunate to have Paul's leadership over the past several years to help us navigate those changes. In fact, our communications department is currently in the middle of giving the website a facelift to make it more functional and to ensure it is accessible to all of our citizens. I'd like to invite Paul to tell us more and present the annual website report.
Okay.
Paul?
Chairman Schulte, members of the board, my name is Paul Burtness. I'm the county's website coordinator, and I work in the communications department. Thank you for this opportunity to give this report. 2017 was a good year for our website. One measure of that is how many visits the website gets. In 2017, we had 2.9 million visits to the website. And that's about 8,000 a day on average, and on some busy days, we'll hit 12,000 visits a day. That number has been growing steadily every year since 2014, when we developed our new website. So what do all those visitors come for? As in previous years, our inmate locator is one of the most popular pages on the site, with about 2,000 visits a day. And that's really a sign of how useful this service is, which gives you an up-to-date report on who's in custody in the county jail or workhouse. Our library homepage is popular too, with about 1,500 visits a day. Many days, it's a neck-and-neck race between the inmate locator and the library homepage as to who gets the most visits. Our jobs page, where people come to look for open positions and careers with the county, gets about 500 visits on a typical day. The number of visits to any part of the website can vary a lot during the course of the year. For example, we have a page on how to pay property taxes. And as you would expect, that page has about 2 peak periods a year when property taxes are due, and then the page gets about 700 visits a day. This past December, we had a surge of interest in people interested in prepaying their property tax, and we were seeing as many as 1,300 visits a day, getting up towards a peak level of service. Rounding out the list, we have a lot of service pages that are very popular, like reserving a campsite, applying for a passport, and finding a compost site for grass and leaves. One thing we think about a lot when we're designing the website and maintaining the website is how do visitors find us? How do they get where they want to go? So as the chart shows on the screen there, most visits to our site, 58%, start with a search engine, and it's almost always a Google search, which makes sense because when you think about it, that's how a lot of us start looking for something on the internet. You go to a search engine. About 38% of the visits are direct, meaning that somebody types in our address, anokacounty.us, into a browser, or they maybe have a bookmark set up. And referrals, which are links from other websites, along with links from Facebook and Twitter, get about 4% of our visits. So what does that mean for us? One of the things is that out of the 8,000 or so visits a day, 8,000 visits a day that the website as a whole gets, only about 1,000 of those visits, 1 out of 8, actually includes the homepage. 1,000 out of 8,000 actually sees our homepage. And the homepage is kind of like the front door to our site. We pay a lot of attention to it and we take good care of it. But it's kind of like, I was thinking about this a little bit, and it's like you're getting ready for a party at home and you tidy up the living room because that's near the front door, that's where all the guests you think are going to come in. You want to make it nice. But then what happens is the guests start arriving and all of a sudden people are coming in the back door because that's the closest to your kitchen, and they want to get to the snacks first. Or else you find out that they're starting to come in the windows because you left one of them open and somebody wants to get in the bedroom directly. Or they're coming down the chimney, you go down in the base room and there's a bunch of people playing pool in the rec room already, and you don't know how those people got there because they didn't come in the front door. Well, it's just a challenge. That's a fact of life for our website, and it's something that all of our content editors, because I don't do the website, people in the departments make that content. And so we're all thinking about, what do I have to do? Because I might be the first page up. I'm going to be the result of what somebody is looking for, so I have to think about how am I going to answer their questions. And we also think about how are the menus and the navigation on our site going to take people to the next place that they need to go. Another thing we think about is how do visitors view our website? We see that about half of the visitors view our website the typical way. We think of it as having a computer at our desktop and a big screen to look at it. But the reality is that the other half of our visitors are using, one of these. They're looking at our website on a phone or a tablet, some kind of mobile device. And some parts of our site get even heavier use on the phone. For example, the inmate locator, which kind of makes sense, 70% of the people who visit that service are using it on a phone. And one interesting thing is every time I have a chance to talk with one of the deputies or in the sheriff's office, I ask them about the inmate locator, and they say, oh, that's great. I've got access in my squad to all kinds of information. But if I just want something quick, it is so nice to pull out the phone, look it up quick, find the answer to a question. It's a great service. So that that the mobile aspect for the inmate locator is very important, but it's not just the inmate locator. Compost sites. People looking for compost sites, 63% of them are using a phone, which makes sense. You're out in the yard raking leaves, and then you got to think about where to take the leaves. Pull out your phone, look it up, and there you go. Also, camping. Camping is a big user of the mobile aspect of the site, 66%, and even childcare. Looking up information on childcare. And then you think about a busy mom or dad. You're standing in line at the grocery store. I got a few minutes, I'll look up something. Well, where do I find childcare in the county? And they use our site on a phone to find that information. So our current website, when we went to Civic Plus, one of the reasons we did was because they were, 4 years ago, they were offering one of the first websites that would work well on a phone. And so it has been working pretty well, but our new site will be even better. And as was mentioned, we are doing a design refresh. And this refresh is a service that we get from Civic Plus, our website provider, because we've been a customer for 5 years. And it's not a completely new website. We're updating the colors and the layouts. Some of the behind-the-scenes programming will be changed to make the site work even better on smartphones, other devices. The contents will be pretty much the same as we've got now, but departments will be using this refresh as a chance to make their pages even more visitor-friendly. We're doing the preliminary work on this now, and we're still on schedule. We should be ready to go live with this sometime, hopefully around mid-May. So in addition to this design refresh, what else have we been doing? I'm particularly proud of our continued focus on customer service in the website, making the website useful for visitors and for our departments. For example, we put the family child care licensing orientation online in 2017, which means that applicants can start the orientation process on their own schedule and complete it at their own pace. And this has resulted in more applicants completing the orientation and making progress towards licensure. The project won the Local Government Innovation Award, and I'd like to give a shout out to my colleague Dave Schwenk for leading that effort. Another example of customer service. We had a web project going on with Children and Family Services in the Social Services Department. One result of that overall project was an online form for reporting child abuse. Now, previous to that, you had to either call up to report child abuse or download a form, print it, fill it out, fax it in, mail it in, something like that. It wasn't a great process. So our IT department got to work and developed this secure form that you see on the screen. We worked with IT because it had to be secure and it had to integrate well with the systems and workflows already in child protection. Because we didn't want to make their job harder, we wanted to make it easier. So with this online form, you can now report child abuse any time of day using your computer or a smartphone, and you can even upload documents and photos if you need to do that as part of the report. And one result, I've been told, has been more reports of child maltreatment, but these reports are more complete, more actionable, more useful, because people are using the form to fill out information. They've got time to think about what they need to say, and so they put it into the form. One more example of customer service. Working with the Sheriff's Office and the IT department, we added online warrant search to our site. And it's a service that gives law enforcement staff and the public access to current warrants in the county. It's a quick system, works on a phone, and it's getting used about 200 times a day. So to bring this report to a close, I want to touch on an issue we'll be working on in 2018, and that's digital accessibility, making sure that our website can be used by citizens who are disabled. For example, a blind person should be able to read our web pages and documents using a screen reader or a braille reader. A deaf person should be able to follow along on our videos by reading the captions. And a person who can't use a mouse should still be able to navigate our menus and fill out our forms. These are just a few examples. Accessibility is defined and required in laws like the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA. But accessibility is also a response to the growing number of disabled persons who want to be full participants in life. They want to be able to get an education, make a living, have a voice in society. And accessibility is also a response to the fact that many of us in this room, if not most of us, at some point in our lives, will be disabled and be able to enjoy services like this. So we've already improved the accessibility of our website in many ways, but more work needs to be done. We are in the process of researching and developing training and best practices for county staff. And this work will result in a website that is robust and accessible to all citizens. So Chairman Schulte and members of the board, that concludes my report. If anyone has any questions or ideas for the website, we do have the Web Oversight Committee process, for which Commissioner Sivaraja is the lead commissioner. And I'm always available by phone or email, or just stop by my office for a chat. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Paul. And again, we're grateful for your expertise. It's interesting to see that the site has become our biggest campus by serving the most customers on a daily basis. And we look forward to seeing the new site down the road. I for one, think that websites are taken for granted. Everybody expects them to work. They expect you to get the information you need and get you where you need to go. And they don't realize all the background work that has to be done to make sure they're accurate, not just today, but when they check it again a week from now, it has to be accurate again.
Absolutely.
And I, for one, don't take that for granted. I appreciate it and appreciate your work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just want
Commissioner
to comment on some of the things that you talked about on the online applications that we have. Because I thought that was one that was, it seemed obvious to have, and then we created it, and it sounds like it's working as we had hoped and actually giving us better reporting, and that's obviously a great asset to have. But the online orientation and the warrant search, a couple others that are really meaningful and helpful. And I think the website's great right now, but I know how things work, that you have to continue to upgrade and continue to get better, and I'm sure it will, and I'm excited to see what May holds when we see the new ones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Paul.
Thank you.
And that wraps up our chair's reports. Let's go ahead and jump into our committee reports, and we'll begin with the Management Committee. Commissioner West.
Thank you, Commissioner Schulte. It's informational only. That's it. So that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. With that, we'll move on to the Transportation Committee Chair's report. And we have a number of items here. We'll start out under the Highway Division. I would recommend approval of a resolution supporting the submittal of a Corridors of Commerce Program funding application to receive funding for improvements to the U.S. Highway 10 corridor, specifically the Fair Oak Avenue and Thurston Avenue intersections within the city of Anoka.
So moved.
I have a motion
Second?
and a second. Is there any further discussion? I'll just remind everybody the Corridors of Commerce is a state program that was funded through bonding, and MnDOT will be awarding those, so we need to get this application in there to see if we can get a sizable chunk of money to continue our work on Highway 10. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? And that will pass. We'll move on to item 2, where I would recommend approval of a resolution vacating a portion of the highway right-of-way along County State Aid Highway number 35, or Central Avenue, in the city of Spring Lake Park.
I'll move it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And that will pass. Thirdly, I would recommend approval of a resolution authorizing the acquisition of right-of-way for the reconstruction of County State Aid Highway 78, or Hanson Boulevard, from 139th Lane, or J Street, to Bluebird Street in the city of Andover.
Move it.
Yeah, I have a motion
Second.
and a second. And any further discussion? With that, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad. Aye.
And that passes. Next, we'll move on to the chair recommends award of Anoka County contract C006305 to CS McCrossin Construction Incorporated for Anoka County's project, which is the railway grade separation for Hanson Boulevard from 300 feet north of Coon Rapids Boulevard to 550 feet north of 108th Lane in the city of Coon Rapids. I'll move it.
Second?
And we have a second. A reminder, our bids came in on this project, and were good bids, and we were excited to award this to CS McCrossin. If this vote goes the way I anticipate it will, we will, there's already been some activity on the site. There have been a number of homes removed already, and a few more scheduled to be removed soon. We'll start construction in the spring of utility work, peripheral work with side roads and ponding, fences, that type of thing, and then the major construction will ensue in the spring of 2019 with the road closure during the summer of 19, hopefully with a completion of the project in the fall of 19 with 3 new bridges, the pedestrian bridge on the north side, the actual railroad bridge, and then a road bridge on the north side for 108. Further discussion? I just will remind the public, it's going to be a cumbersome couple of months in 2019, and there may be some lane closures in 2018, but not a full closure. So be patient, plan your trips ahead of time. It's a major north-south thoroughfare in town, and it will affect people's lives, and hopefully they stay up to speed on our website and movements so they can get around town simply. With no further discussion, we will move to a roll call vote.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad. Aye. Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. And that does conclude the the transportation report. However, I would like to discuss our sudden closure of County Road 14, the westbound movement between Hanson Boulevard and Coon Creek Boulevard. We had a land bridge pier failure, and I will turn to Doug Fisher to give us some details. A quick detour route is going to be north on Hanson to Bunker Lake Boulevard, west on Bunker Lake Boulevard to Coon Creek Boulevard, and back south to Main Street. There are other detours that you can use, but that is the preferred marked detour within county roads that we'd prefer you'd use. With that, Doug, can you give us some information and some update and maybe a guesstimate on how long it's closed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, County Board members. My name is Doug Fisher. I'm the County Engineer and Transportation Division Manager. Yes, we did discover a failure yesterday that necessitated the immediate closure of this bridge. We don't take that lightly, but we did feel that was in the best interest of the traveling public that we did close that bridge. It is a structural failure, as you mentioned, and it's going to take quite a bit of remediation to do that. Obviously, this is not the best construction time of the year to do this, but it's not going to slow us down. We have ways of dealing with our Minnesota winters. This is not unusual, but we're rapidly pulling together all the correct minds. We've actually even had conversations with people that built this bridge back in 2002 when it wasn't a county road. This was originally a trunk highway. Trunk Highway 242 was turned back to the county, but it will probably be at least a couple weeks. It could extend even a month, depending on what the ultimate solution needs to be and how quickly we can get a contractor mobilized to get out there. But again, a lot of people may not even realize it's a bridge out there. It looks like a simple one-span bridge over the Coon Creek with these long concrete pavement approaches. Actually, that concrete approaches are part of a 34-span bridge that goes across this area. So the area that failed looks like just a regular concrete pavement settlement, but really what it is that bridge deck slab is actually the support on one end of that bridge slab actually failed. the concrete bench for that slab failed, and obviously, we are looking at all options, temporary and permanent, to try and get this road open as soon as possible. So, but again, until we come up with that plan, it will remain closed. And again, I do advise everybody to please follow the detours, be patient, and the signs are not lying. The road is closed. I know a lot of people drive past the regular detour points and drive down and then find out it's closed and then have to drive back. So, and we will keep everybody posted as best we can on the progress.
Thank you, Doug. Commissioner Kordiak.
Good comments, Chairman. Obviously, this wasn't a bridge collapse or something like that. How did we uncover that it was an issue? Because it's not probably difficult to see.
Correct. Commissioner Kordiak, that is a good point. That is one of the difficulties of a land bridge. You can't get underneath it and see what's going on. But it started out, one of our employees was driving westbound on Main Street and noticed a thump. You know, and generally going across bridges, there's expansion joints, there are thumps, but, you know, him being the trained professional, he thought this thump was a little different than the normal thumps. And so he asked the person in our office that does annual bridge inspections to actually go out and take a look at it, and it looked like it might be just a normal maintenance joint failure. There's glands, we have expansion joints on these bridges so they can expand and contract, and there's certain joints along there, and it looked like maybe this joint failed. But he wasn't quite sure either, so he brought in Joe McPherson, my assistant county engineer, looked at it, and he said, nah, I don't think there's more going on here than we think. So then we brought in a bridge expert, and he said, nah, I think something's going on, but we couldn't really tell because we couldn't get under the bridge. But, you know, in my experience, this land bridge, essentially it's a roof covering the peaty, mucky soils there, and when you cover up that peaty soils, it's not exposed to rain or moisture anymore, so those soils actually shrink. And so the soil underneath that bridge has always been, you know, it was poured to grade, but it kind of settles. So I knew if we could excavate on the side of the bridge, we could actually look under and see what was going on. So that's what we did. We actually had to get a frost ripper out there. We had to rip the frost out of the ground and take a look, and you know, flashlights and belly crawling, we were able to take a look at exactly what was going on, and that's when we realized we had a serious flaw, a serious failure. And again, so it was, you know, again, I'd like to just, you know, thank and appreciate my staff that, you know, because really, the normal eye, casual eye wouldn't have even thought anything of it, but, you know, it was enough that he thought, we better take a look at this, and very glad that he did, so.
You obviously can't just add some caulk and call it a day. Sounds like an ugly problem.
Commissioner Gamache.
Chairman, thank you. So is it both east and west that we're closing both routes?
Actually, we just are closing the westbound.
Okay.
So eastbound is still open to traffic.
Okay.
Through that area. Again, in the short term, we're going to try and do a remediation and fix what's broke right now. But it is making us think we better look at the other three quadrants of that bridge where we have the exact same situation, that maybe we should, in the long term, do some remediation there before we have a failure. If it's a structural flaw, waiting for something like this to happen, you know, we don't know. But we'll be looking at that in the long term, but in the short term, our immediate need is to fix the problem at hand.
That's good to know, because as I got on the road today off of Coon Creek, I didn't notice anything except there was no traffic going westbound, and I thought, well, I caught a perfect moment here.
Right.
So I didn't want to say I wasn't observant, but I really didn't see anything going on, so that's kind of nice to know that it was eastbound was open. Okay, good.
That is correct.
Commissioner Kordiak.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, I seem to remember a mountain of tire crumb, rubber crumb that was used in part of this roadway. Is this part of that piece? Because I know it was soft and peaty, and we did that to a good piece of that roadway. I wonder if that included this piece or not.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kordiak, not on this piece of road. Actually, the road leading into Lowe's is built on lightweight fill. But the Main Street itself, Even when it was a trunk highway, never had lightweight fill. It had settled many times over the year, and actually, when we came in on our piece of it, then when we did the land bridge further to the east, east of Shenandoah, we found 6 feet of asphalt pavement that over the years, you just kept leveling it, and we ended up with a massive, and normally we would, when we build a road over these type of soils, we muck it all out and just bring in clean fill, and we don't have a bridge, but we build a road, but the depth of the peat deposits in this area were so deep that it was actually cheaper to build a land bridge than it was to excavate this area out, so.
Welcome to Anoka County.
Yes.
Doug,
Great soils are really poor soils.
Yeah, I know.
I have one last question for you, and then a couple of quick comments. So MnDOT did the bridge repair on 4th Avenue over Highway 10 this last summer,
Correct.
fixing pier caps. Is this a similar thing except at ground level?
I think, Mr. Chair, what happened on the 4th Avenue Bridge over Highway 10 was more just kind of spalling. The rebar buried inside that concrete was rusting, and when steel rusts, it expands. When it expands, it essentially spalls or blows out the concrete. So, but really, that's more surface oriented and not. This was a real structural failure. I mean, there was a shear in that bench seat where that bridge deck was sitting on. So that was, it was serious that it needed that repair, but it didn't require the closure. Well, it did while they were doing the work just because of vibrations and things like that, but it really, this really is a serious failure of that bridge bench for that deck. So again, that's why it was an emergency and couldn't be scheduled and planned in a more methodical way.
Commissioner Look.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Doug, what sort of warranty do we have on these type of things?
Well, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Look, really none, because when contractors work on our road and bridge projects, they do exactly what we tell them to do. And we inspect it, and we certify it, and we own it. So really, and I'm not saying that this is the contractor did anything wrong. It may have just been a design issue, or it could have been caused by an overweight load on our highways that the bridge really wasn't intended to serve. So it could have, the pinpoint exact, we think we know what happened, how it happened, we may never know how it happened.
Okay, a couple of quick final points from me. First, I want to say thanks to our staff for catching this. This is something that could have been catastrophic to something other than the highway itself. If that settled suddenly and very fast, there could have been a bad wreck. And secondly, I want to point out to our constituents that we don't take this lightly. We don't close a major thoroughfare like this because we want to work peacefully and calmly without traffic. This is done for the public safety. We had no other choice. We've closed it, and we will get the work done and get it open just as quick as humanly possible. If that means it's a temporary repair to get us by till next summer, so be it. If it means we can do a permanent repair in a reasonable amount of time, that's exactly what we'll do. And I believe there's updates on the website already, so if you need any of the information we've talked about here today, please go to Anoka County's website, to the Highway Division, and find out everything you need to know about the closure of County Road 14 westbound. With that, that will conclude our transportation report, and we'll move on to the Finance and Capital Improvements Committee Chair Report. Commissioner Look.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given the fact that we didn't have anything to really discuss of importance in the Finance Committee, we chose not to meet. But we did have this housekeeping component here, which is the recommendation was the county board approve the annual redesignation of depositories to U.S. Bank and Wells Fargo Bank. This is something we do every year. So I'll move it.
Perfect. I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And that will pass.
And Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
All right, with the finance report complete, we'll move on to the Human Services Committee report, and we will have Vice Chair Commissioner Julie Brasted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee recommends the county board enter into contract C0006290. It's a lease agreement with Menlo Capital Partners for space for the Eastern Anoka County Human Service Center site from March 1st, 2018 through February 29th, 2020, with one 5-year renewal option, pending approval from the county attorney's office. This is necessary because the building that we were in, the county lost their lease as the city over there was changing up going to tear down the building and do some other things.
And this new facility is right on the main road there, and it looks like from sitting through the Human Services Committee that it'll be a great location for.
It's going to be a really nice location, be able to serve the public very well.
Very good.
Mr. Chair, just for clarification, Commissioner Brasta, that was March 1, 2018 through February 29, 2028 or 2020?
I have 2028 in my notes here,
Okay.
but that seems quite long, doesn't it?
Well, it says one 5-year renewal option, so maybe it's a 5-year with another 5-year on it. But, okay. I just heard you say February 29th, 2020, and I wanted to make sure the record.
Oh, 2028, okay.
Could be 5 and 5.
In sitting in the Human Services Committee meeting, I did hear 2028. It was a long-term with one 5-year extension,
right.
if I recall correctly.
That's it, and I'll move that.
Okay.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there further discussion? And we will have a roll call vote.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brastad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Right.
And that passes just fine. We will move on to the second item.
Recommend Resolution 2018 HS1, which is the economic assistance bills and payments for December 2017.
I'll offer it.
The resolution's been offered. A roll call vote.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brastad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
And that passes. Item 3.
Resolution 2018 HS2, accepting gift for human services, which is a $15,000 donation from Health Partners to be used to support human services programs.
Very good. Looking for an offer of the resolution.
I'll offer it.
And the resolution's been offered. Again, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brastad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
And that passes as well.
And that concludes my human services report.
Thank you very much. And we will move on to the Information Technology Committee report. Commissioner Gamache.
Thank you, Chairman. We met on Thursday, January 18th, and we had informational items, basically, that we wanted to go over to discuss, and we really kind of focused on some of the things that Paul was talking about today, on some of the aspects of what we're seeing added to the website. But one of them was, for informational purposes, again, an overview of a project to provide greater efficiencies in long-term services and support. And the other one I think we should also focus on was one that was a demonstration of the new travel and training form workflow process that was created by our IT team. And Susan Breland is here, and I'd like Susan just to go over quickly a couple of those two issues as we had some good discussion about what we're working on.
Certainly, Mr. Chair and members of the County Board. I'm Susan Vreeland, the county's IT director. In the past, our long-term services and support area, until recently, was required to put the same information in multiple forms as it relates to assessments. They're a busy group. Their work continues to increase, and so entering the same information in multiple places was obviously frustrating for that group. So we got together and talked about what can we do differently, how can we automate this process. And we built something internally called an on-base URL. And it sounds like a complicated term, but what it basically does is gives that group the ability to put all that information into one form in one place, one time. It was a quick process. We worked internally with people from Jerry Peterson's group who partnered very closely with us on this. We put this together pretty quickly, and we went live on January 2nd. That's the day after a holiday, so I'm not sure typically how busy they would be. But on that first day, they took in 46 assessment requests. And it's estimated this new process saves the caseworker about 15 minutes per case. So in that very first day alone, staff saved 11 and a half hours of time. So a pretty impressive change for the very first day. And we're looking forward to calculating and kind of keeping a track of how much time it continues to save and looking at duplicating this type of a process in other areas. So a quick accomplishment, but a great partnership.
Thank you, Susan. And it really does show when we have the proper system set up and you have the proper system, you can get your job done a lot faster. Relieves some pressure on the employees, gives them more time to handle even more. So it was a nice thing to hear about, and I'm glad to see that it's serving the group that it's helping out. So I appreciate that. And we also had some discussion about server and storage statistics. All of that information is going to come to us later on this year as we talk about budget issues, I'm sure. But for the most part, it was good just to get an opportunity to go over some of the things that we've been doing over the last year and the successes. So we're looking for more successes in 2018. That's my report, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Gamache. Well, let's jump into the Parks and Community Services Committee report. Commissioner Kordiak.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that. From our last meeting, Mr. Perry will join us. We had a discussion about a resolution that we are offering that requires county board action on the Race Creek Chain of Lakes Reserve Master Plan. This is a process that we do periodically, typically after a number of years. It's a lengthy process. Things obviously keep moving and changing. We have to build a relationship with Metropolitan Parks, so we have to outline what our goals and desires are, get their approval, and move those kind of projects forward. So this is just an example of what we've done in many of our parks, but today it's this park's turn. Can you comment a little bit, Jeff, about the process that we went through and maybe the goals that we seek to accomplish?
Certainly, Mr. Chair, members of the board, good morning. My name is Jeff Perry, Park Planning and Resources Manager for Anoka County. The future projects entailed in this master plan amendment include, we recently did a Wargo master plan, and to enhance our delivery services at Wargo Nature Center will be included and qualify for future funding through the Metropolitan Council in the state of Minnesota. In addition, there will be some improvements to the campgrounds with some handicap accessible sites, some tent platforms, etc. Some additional trail connections, primarily on the south end of the park reserve to some of those neighborhoods to better serve those citizens on the south end of the park reserve. The removal of the compost facility will be taken outside of the park reserve, which will be a benefit to some habitat restoration in that area. Some improved signage, and I would just like to add as well that there was extensive public engagement that occurred as part of this process. We listened to the public and incorporated many of their comments and requests throughout the process. So again, some well-needed adjustments to the master plan that will better serve the residents of Anoka County.
Very good. Well, I would comment, if I could, that these master plans seem laborious and in-depth and never-ending. But at the same time, I realize our park system was built a lot with Metropolitan Council dollars. Yeah. And you get those by having good master plans that are updated regularly, maintained properly, and under Mr. Bondolini's leadership, I think Anoka County has excelled in its park division beyond any other county nearby, and largely because of the background work like this. I think it's one of those things that's, master plans are boring and hard to look at, but boy, do they make a difference in the end.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll offer it.
All right, we have an offer of the resolution. Any further discussion? With that, we will have a direct vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And that passes. On to item 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secondarily, we'd like to see if we can approve a purchase and service agreement with the Conservation Corps of Minnesota. This is a crew that has been working, it works throughout the nation in many different park systems. They worked in our county for numerous across track now. They're an important part of our workforce. These are young, trained individuals who are interested in the field of natural resources in many different ways. Their careers are leading them in that direction. They work in a variety of projects. There might be a burn in Anoka County. They're building something. They're clearing vegetation. We issue a wide variety of missions to them. They come with their own workforce, their own trucks, their own equipment, their own supervision, and all we see is the outcome of what we desire to have completed. It's many times paid for by our
Park and
Legacy
Trail
Fund.
Legacy.
Thank you.
Yep.
That just slipped away. And we look forward to having that relationship again, Mr. Chairman. And I would move it.
Terrific. I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there any further discussion? And we will have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye. Terrific, and that passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The other items are for information only. They're pretty straightforward for the most part. There's a lot of things happening in our park system every day. This outlines some of them, but not critical to today's discussion. That ends my report.
Terrific. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Keep those vocal cords lubricated. We are going to move on to the Property Records and Taxation Committee report, which you can lead us through, Commissioner Kordiak.
I can't actually add people for this, but I think I can carry the ball in this case, Mr. Chairman. Item number one is a opportunity in Commissioner Brasted's district. This is with the city of East Bethel. We're looking at conveying a parcel of property that's been tax forfeit. They're interested in using it for a public purpose, and we see no reason why we would not desire to do that. I offer that.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, it's a resolution, actually. You make the resolution.
Oh, I'll offer that resolution.
Thank you very much.
The resolution has been offered, and without any further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kordiak,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
And that passes, carries us through item one on to item two.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Similarly, in Commissioner Marshall District with the City of Coon Rapids, are looking at similarly do a conveyance of tax forfeit property for this. In this case, it's for a local purpose. There is a market value on that property. When you use properties for things like a park, there is typically little cost involved in transferring that property. When you're extending the opportunity for a supermarket, there is some cost of property that they're acquiring. In this case, there is some costs associated with this conveyance. You can see it's $57,300. We've offered that. That's half the market value that we have once proposed. That's kind of a standard that we have when working with our cities, and they desire to acquire.
Very good.
I will move that resolution.
I have an offer of the resolution. And with no further discussion, we will have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kordiak,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte.
Aye.
Commissioner Look.
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad.
Aye.
Terrific, and that passes. We'll move on to item three.
Chair, can I merge item 3 and 4 if you don't object? And Commissioner Subaraja's territory statutory opportunity provides homeowners whose parcels are divided into 2 different school districts to merge them into one. Each of these parcels are the same piece. They're adjoining properties. They look forward to take advantage of that opportunity, join a school district. I forget which one. We commonly have approved these items. I would offer it.
All right, I have an offer of resolution, PRT 4 and PRT 3. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and no one's opposed. Resolutions pass.
Mr. Chairman, can I comment? The other items are for information purposes only. A couple of them that we had some discussion regarding the Tyler migration project, transitioning our property tax record system to a new platform. It's a project that's always mission critical. It's an expensive opportunity. We need to do it from time to time. We're pleased with the choice the choice we've made to this point. For the most part, the project seems to be moving fine. There's always bumps and issues and things we have to pay attention to. A couple of pieces that are maybe moving a little bit more slowly than we might like, but we seem to have qualified staff who know where they should be, they know the timetables, as do we. We develop them together. So let me just say that as far as we believe that things are moving progressively fine with that system and should offer a variety of new opportunities within the system that we end up with one day. So we're on track. Secondarily, I'll comment, and many of you are familiar with the fact that with the federal government new tax opportunities, there are some changes in next year's tax laws. We had a scramble of people that were prepaying their property taxes. It was quite a curiosity. The number that we collected in the end was something like $9 million. Huh? $9 million that we prepaid in property tax. The individuals came in with their checkbooks and bundles of cash and plunked it down and prepaid their property taxes. Hopefully they can better take an itemized deduction this year because they may not be able to next year. So we have an interesting bundle of cash that we've had the opportunity. It's money that we would have gotten anyhow. We're a little unclear if somebody paid too much, $10 too much, or $10 too little, what kind of issue that will have, shuffling money back and forth, should that be the case. Right now they're working with estimates, which aren't always perfect, but it was simply a curiosity that we worked through in the property tax system, and it worked. We added staff and added time and got it done, but everybody left happy. But it was just a curiosity. We'll see how that unfolds as time passes. With that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Kordiak. I would like to send a special thanks to the Property Record and Taxation Division for that extra work. It was, I think, unexpected and sudden, and we had to step up and perform those services to make sure that the public got what they were expecting. And it sounds like, I was not there, I did not see it, but I heard all the reports and they were all glowing. So thank you to everybody in that division for your hard work during that span of time. With that, we'll move on to the Anoka County Public Safety Committee report. Commissioner Braston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on January 16th, and we have one action item, and that is the committee recommends the appointment of Carrie Morrissey, Communications Coordinator, as the alternate on the Metropolitan Emergency Services Board 911 Technical Operations Committee. And I'll move that.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And that passes.
And I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank our staff from both the Emergency Management Department and our Anoka County Sheriff's Office, who will be participating in Super Bowl activities. They have been and will be in the future until it all wraps up. So, you know, it's pretty impressive that they're committed to providing public safety for this event.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Brasted, and for everybody. All you have to do is turn on the TV and you'll realize there's a Super Bowl in town, and it's overtaking everything. So public safety will be paramount, and I'm sure our folks are glad to be a part of that.
Absolutely, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. With that, we're going to jump into a public hearing. Before that, I will turn the floor over to the county attorney, Mr. Palumbo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would convene the public hearing, which is to obtain comments concerning amendments to the Anoka County Park ordinances. I would ask that the clerk take note that notice of this public hearing was published on January 9th, 2018, and please make that a part of the record. My understanding, Mr. Andy Siltveld will come forward and address the board on, give a summary of those changes. Mr. Siltveld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. Today before you, we have something we present every 5 years to the board is a review of our park ordinances and changes that may possibly take place during that 5-year cycle. We look and review these for changes in recreation trends, different state statutes or county statutes that may change the effect and how they may be applied to the park system. Some of those key areas that we look at are recreation use changes, but then also compliance with federal laws and changes that may affect how we use our park facilities. Some of those areas that we looked at also were making sure that we're in line with changes to county policy. Things that didn't exist 5 years ago, such as e-cigarettes. They weren't an issue that we were addressing in the park system. Now it's something that we want to make sure that we have a policy in place for and move forward for enforcement in the park system as well. During this 5-year cycle, over the last year, we've met with our park staff several times. We've met with other agencies to see what other systems within the metro area are doing. We've discussed things with the DNR for recreation trends and where they're going with their ordinance uses as well. After getting that feedback from other agencies, we worked very closely with Chris Carney from the county's attorney's office, who's been crucial in making sure that all the language that we include in our ordinance is compliant with all the different statutes and county policies as well. So these areas that we have listed below are kind of the main areas that were listed for changes this year. Looking at our park hours, currently, for example, our park hours are listed from 6 a.m. to a half hour after sunset. This time of year, sunset comes pretty early. So at 5:30, if you went to go for a walk in the park with your dog after work, you would be technically outside a park ordinance. So and to adjust that, we're setting set hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. for our park system, which is very conducive for other municipalities and other like-minded systems. So that's one example. Otherwise, we've addressed things like unmanned aerial vehicles or drones, something that hasn't been here 5 years ago, to address the use of those in the parks, how they can be used, when they can be used, where they can be used, to make sure we're offering a safe environment for our guests. So outside of that, any questions that you may have, I'd be happy to address those specifically with you, or any comments from the public.
Any questions for Mr. Solbet by the board? Mr. Cordy.
I will just comment that obviously it only gets a review every 5 years. It's been gone through with our staff and take a look at what the changes that happen in the world around us and things in our park system. Had the review of our county attorney's office. The Parks Committee looked at this. I think we felt that many of the things were pretty straightforward and somewhat routine, and so I don't think you'll find anything extraordinary. And unless you want to read the old ordinance compared with the new ordinance, let me just say that we feel comfortable with where we're at today.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions by members of the board? Okay. At this time, then, I would call on any members of the public who wish to come forward and make comment on these proposed amendments. Any member of the public that wishes to come forward. And I'll ask a third time, any member of the public that wishes to come forward. Seeing none at this time, then, Mr. Chair, I would then close the hearing and turn the matter back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Palumbo. And as a board now, we'll consider adoption of an ordinance 2018-1, the Anoka County Parks Ordinance.
Might I offer it, Mr. Chairman? Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion to adopt the ordinance. Is there a second?
Second?
And a second. All those, are there any discussion? More conversation? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And anyone opposed? All right, that ordinance is adopted. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
And lastly, we'll move on to item 10, consider resolution 2018-9 related to the establishment of minimum salaries for the county sheriff and the county attorney. And I will offer the resolution. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, this is just a statutory requirement. It has to be done every election year. In January of every election year, the board is required to establish what the minimum salaries are for the other elected officials in the county.
Thank you, Mr. Palumbo.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that clarification. I wasn't sure what drove this discussion. I know that historically we do have to set a minimum. I maybe forgot when, but that is the reason why. Thank you.
January of election year.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Any further discussion? And this will require a roll call vote.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamache,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulte,
Aye.
Commissioner Look,
Aye.
Commissioner Brassad,
Aye.
Cordiak.
Aye.
And that passes. We have now set the minimum salaries. Is there anything else to come before the county board? Seeing none, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.